Ever feel like you're doing everything, but losing touch with yourself? Welcome to Well Connected with Dr. Elizabeth Hafer. This is your space to slow down, tune in, and realign. We'll talk health, relationships, purpose, and the truth behind what it really means to feel whole. Because alignment isn't just for your spine, it's for your life. Let's reconnect. Let's realign. Let's get well connected.
I am so excited that we are all here together. This has been something that's, more than 18 months in the making, I would say. And I had the pleasure of meeting you, Jonathan, because you eventually found me because of interviews Kevin and I had done many moons before you had access to the content. And we were just simply sharing our story, like talking about our truth, our why, kind of our journey personally of where we came from through the suffering and why Blair upper cervical was so transformative for us. And then you happened upon the content in the dark night of your soul.
Yeah, dark night to soul, like to say the least, for sure. Yeah, I think I was at hearing you guys talk about just, or many people through your podcast and stories of just people at their kind of wit's end or just last part. I think I was out of answers and I was just kind of made one final push and then found Kevin's videos.
Yeah.
Then luckily found you.
It was really cool to rewatch that video that you made about your healing process because even like when you do get better, you forget of how bad, like listening to you say like every day you felt like you were in the twilight zone and you never thought you were ever going to come out of it. Like me being out of all my post-concussion syndrome symptoms for, 10 years now, it made me like think about how awful life was for so long because you forget. And it's just, waking up without those symptoms every day is one of the biggest blessings of life you can ask for. And rewatching that video, just like, oh my God, yeah, there's thousands of people suffering with that those same issues.
It's so gnarly. And I watched your testimony video that you recorded. I think you recorded it the year that you were applying for the Blair Scholarship.
Yeah.
And you recorded your why. And you wrote it out, of course, because that's like one of the requirements. And you made this video and it's still on your website, like yes. And I was like, I filmed that and I was with you and it still brings tears to my eyes to know that the thing that we get to do every day really does transform lives. And I just want to take it back, kind of like start, tell the story, because you've shared with Kevin, you've shared with me, there's little bits and pieces out there, but where are you now compared to where you were, and bring it together for us.
Yeah. I mean, I guess as we've all talked about, obviously there are things in life that happen over the course of years that chip away at you that eventually lead to a bigger piece. But I think at the core for my situation, it was shingles that kind of took me down. And just because it was so close to my eye and brain, it obviously affected my eye and multiple cranial nerves. And I feel like, the scarring of the eye is obviously like a traumatizing thing. And it was something that deeply impacted me to the point where every single day I would probably try and take a picture of my eye just to see if the scarring had changed or reduced or maybe became more opaque or anything like that. And I was so fixated on it that it turned out to be just scratching the surface. And, if it was just the scarring, I would be so good.
Right. Right.
But it was all the other neurological stuff and the brain part of it and my eyes not working with my brain and the cranial nerve 6 and just being able to move my eyes. That's something that I still don't have full control of yet. But I think just being from a place of nothing, it was like falling through a floor that you didn't know existed.
And why do you think you get to experience this?
I mean, I know we can all, I guess, open up a bit. I'm not the most religious person. I think I believe in God, and I think it's kind of one of those catch-22 things where losing my dad so early, it kind of, I'll joke that it sometimes feels like God has held me hostage because, you're supposed to believe in good and great. And then you have questions of why did these things happen to people, or why did things happen to great dads like him? So I go back and forth, and I will often reference 21 Jump Street and refer to God as Korean Jesus.
You do that a lot, and it's awesome.
And it's not from I think it's most of my life I try to find the balance of, the good in everything, and whatever it is, whatever you believe in, I think that's a powerful thing. And like I said, I do believe, but maybe it's just I think you get tested in life, and I feel like I've watched things happen that have altered me for sure, but I would like to believe there's a bigger reason for it all.
Yeah. What's interesting? I just kind of put this together. While I didn't physically in this life lose my mother, like she didn't die, effectively she's dead to me. She left when I was 2 and didn't come back, and still chooses to not have a relationship with me or my brother. So for all intents and purposes, I don't have a mother, right? And both of you lost your fathers at a young age. So it's very interesting that each one of us have that parental loss in our life. And each one of us has lived tremendous suffering in some capacity, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even I would say spiritually. And you don't have to be religious to like have a connection to the Creator, right? And understand that the suffering that we have does play a role, has a purpose. And I was talking to Kevin on the podcast interview I did with him about the purpose of the pain that we go through. So when I asked you, why do you think you get to go through this?
Sure. No, I agree with you in the sense of like, I thought about that a lot, or just any kind of hard time where it's, you don't really appreciate the good without the bad.
Yes.
And I think it's amplified now, and
absolutely,
just the simplest, littlest things I think I find joy in.
Right.
But yeah, like life is tough, and there's ups and downs and challenges. And this is without a doubt the most challenging thing. I talked a bit about it with Dr. Pecca, but as hard as losing my dad was, this was harder, which is a crazy thing to say.
Yep. I get it.
One thing I forgot to ask you during the podcast was, how does this influence you now in content creation and YouTube videos, with going through this, pretty much losing everything, starting up again, new lease on life? How does that translate into the content you want to put out now? Has it altered your view on what you want to put in and things like that?
Yeah, I think there's probably two parts to that. One, just in the sense of how I literally will see tech in technology, just through a different lens. And something as simple as this laptop, it has an anti-glare screen, and having the scarring in my eye and knowing that causes ghosting and artifacts and streaks and things like that, something that I maybe appreciated just from a nerd level before. Now it has a medical benefits, getting into, exploring different modalities such as laser and PEMF and, all the science behind that. And that led me down to red light therapy. And it really, I had a decent background in just learning how to eat well and nutrition and supplements and things like that. But really, it forced me to really, really, really jump on that. So I think, from that end, seeing tech through how it helps people is one thing. And I think also just like, I really, really, really love making stuff to the point where like I get obsessed about it. It's sometimes what I feel like I was born to do. And a lot of that comes from my dad, and just seeing him. One of my fondest memories of him was him walking into a Hollywood video. I don't know if any of you know what that is, because it was mostly Blockbuster, but it was like it was the competition to Blockbuster. But he walked in and he asked one of the attendants, when they were getting Blu-rays, and like he was so far ahead that the guy didn't know what it was yet.
Right.
And whether it was that or a 720p TV, he had one of those when there was maybe 3 or 4 HD channels. And so I think his kind of love for tech always just blended into me with music. So getting back to all of that, I think the other thing that I would touch on is even how much I love it. I think when you get to a place where it becomes a business and it becomes a stress and it becomes weight, you kind of, not that you lose it, but it gets buried by everything else.
Kind of dulls the creativity too.
Yeah, you kind of have to focus on things that maybe you don't want to focus on as much. And that was always a constant battle, I think, from my end. There was a lot of internal struggle, both with people on my team and maybe those on the outside who would question why I would spend time doing these projects, and whether it was music or things that weren't necessarily the money maker, right? And I would get questions of like, well, why don't you just do unboxings all the time? Because I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
And so you kind of balance that. And then you still get stuck in having to do the things you don't necessarily want to do. But I think with that now, I think back to all those times where it seemed impossible or stressful, or it's like, man, like what a blessing it was to like have to do that, And so I think being able to start over and really focus on the videos that I want to make, and not put myself in that situation where I have to make videos.
Yeah.
I have one more question for Jonathan. So I kind of know which videos on TikTok are going to hit exactly, and I have other ideas where I want to branch out, and I kind of inherently know that it's going to get less views. How do you balance out the videos that you need to hit, or that are going to do so well with another creative stream that interests you, that are like, this is more soul fulfilling to me than that one video? I know if I make it exactly like this, press the button, I know what it's going to do. And the other videos that's more of a soul project that you just want to put out there and you don't know how it's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's speaking my internal struggle for most of this whole thing that I've done. But yeah, I think it's ultimately, I would say to some extent, you kind of have to, I would say, more or less give up that viral thought and just really put in the work and trust the process. I would say maybe just build you. And I think that's the harder part sometimes, is like that. People start to come back to see you as opposed to it. And it may seem small at first. And that's something that I struggle with right now, where it's like, I did a video on an exoskeleton, and it was
not your primary content.
It's a little out, it's not an iPhone, it's not a MacBook, and it's a little out there, but it was cool for where I'm at in life. And I got to make the video I wanted to make, and it didn't perform like I wanted to. But also I think with that, I guess, view on life, I just don't care anymore, I guess, right? Because it's like those things used to really not mess with me, but like you put work into something and it bombs, then it sucks. But at the end of the day, like I think you just got to move on to the next would be my approach. And, just really, what do you want to do in this life? And I think if you work hard at it long enough, you'll start to snowball, and those views will become more consistent, and then they pop off over time. So I would just say, like, ultimately maybe just give up the viral mentality and kind of feel the dreams. Like if you build it, they'll come kind of.
That's interesting, because I mean, that's kind of exactly what is actually happening right now, is the fact that you were so compelled to tell your story with the two docs that really, I guess, influenced you the most. You flew all the way across the country with me to come and sit in Kevin's office and do this whole day where we just get to like reminisce about where we've been, where we've come from, record content. And I would say that you've, accidentally found a new passion, because you're really concerned about making sure that like the content we produce is good.
I'm only laughing because I know early on I would ask you so many questions, and there was one time you're like, what are you asking me so many questions for? Like, what are you like? Are you making like a hit piece on me? Like, it's like, no, I'm just a nerd. Like, I want to know how it works.
I love it. And that's awesome. And so from your lens, literally the lens that we're looking at right now, it's really cool to be, part of this movement that your passion for creating content from behind the scene really does allow the message to come forth in such a more digestible way. And what Kevin's doing with UCC Near Me and his business partners, and, just the content that we're producing and the way that we want to share the story. Like that's what the vision for me was with this whole thing of us coming together. And again, you on our own dime, we came out here to just do this work and just have a fun day, really a fun weekend in St. Augustine, talking about like what compels our hearts to keep moving forward. Right.
Yeah. Well, I agree with, I think to that note, what Kevin was saying of just sometimes you forget how bad it was when you come out of it. And I think I really, obviously still being in it, it helps me not forget, but I really, really, really like sometimes now when I fall asleep, I'll kind of just replay, how bad it was. And it's just a way to remind myself of, on those days now where I think two things help me get through, right? Like now that I've made progress, I kind of imagine what it will be like to be normal, and that kind of like wills me through it. But also I'll really try and remember like how bad it was, because there are days that really suck, and there's days that my body just doesn't want to do things. And it's obviously there was two parts to this. There was the cognitive part that really messed with me, and I think my mind came back faster than my body did. And so I'll have situations where like I'll wake up and I'm like amped, and then my body's just like, no,
not today.
Not today.
Yeah.
But
well, I can tell you, having taken care of you for the last 18 months, to watch the progress and the fact that I think you showed me this video the other day of you roller skating. And then it was like kind of like I was like watching you crash and fall. Remarkably, you didn't go out of alignment. And number two, I was like, dude, you got on rollerblades and went and did something that you wouldn't have even conceived of 6 months ago. So that in and of itself is progress. And you're pushing yourself, even though it's uncomfortable, even though you're still struggling, even though there's still symptoms that are appearing, you're getting back out there, you're doing the thing, making videos again, you're creating content. That is a win on every level in my book.
Yeah. No, I will, I guess, frost that cake. Like we talked about it. I know it's nice to sit here and smile and laugh and, just to touch briefly on like the sadder, darker, tougher time where, I mentioned on Dr. Pecca's podcast where in the worst of it, I wished I had a time machine, not to go back, but just to like, in a year from now, will I be here?
Yes.
And I think I had just gotten to that place, like I mentioned, where it's not that I didn't want to be here. I wanted to sleep. I wanted to rest. Going to sleep hurt, waking up hurt. And it was just a cycle that never ended. So I just wanted to sleep. I just wanted to rest. And I think I was just at that point. So I think once you get to that place and you just, like I said, I was so angry for a while, and I hated how I felt. And I got to this eventual place where I just accepted it, right? I was at peace.
Yeah.
So now because of that, I feel like anything I get to do, like I won, So
yes, that's amazing.
Like
and like
anything that happens from here on forward is just it's a new lease on life.
Yeah. And I think it's been fun. Like I said, the nerd in me also wants to shine the light to the stuff that you guys do. And like anything, there's good and there's bad. And I think part of my goal, especially with the initial video, is to, sift through the nonsense and then also find the people who do it well and the people who care about it. And like I said, your care and just message was very apparent and clear just from the early videos. And that was ultimately the thing that led me to Dr. Hafer. And like, obviously he's a beast, but I will add on to his thoughts of like, I don't know if there's anyone better. And, it sucks to me that there are people out there who, I guess, lessen the name.
Yeah.
And, there's a reason whilst I was skeptical of chiropractic, just because of things that I've seen.
And experienced.
But just seeing, like I said, I'll continue to tell you, you're most impressive when you're not thinking about it and you're just in it and you're doing it and you're talking and you're just, I think I was listening to, it must have been Bill Burr, and he was just talking about, obviously we're in this era where information is so accessible that it's easy for someone just to like learn about something as opposed to learn something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's easy for someone just to recite something that makes you sound smart.
Yeah.
And like I said, if it were not for your neurological background, then I wouldn't have found every other thing that I needed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Having gone through the Diplomate program was such a passion for me, just to and expand my knowledge, but show up and be a better doctor for that person who was going to be calling. Right. And so the people who I've never even met are eventually going to call, and I'm going to hopefully have a solution. And so that's kind of like we talked about on another interview that I did. The passion that I come from is just knowing that I want to show up and have the best possible solution. And if it isn't me, then maybe I have somebody that I can refer to.
Sure.
And the Diplomate program for me was that. And what's interesting is I did the Diplomate program and I opened Well Connected at the same time. I was an associate for, like 11 and a half years. And I finally had enough courage and self-compassion and self-love to just test myself and bet on myself that I was going to be able to do the thing. And so I opened Well Connected and I started the Diplomate, and they were my two babies for about 5 years. And so I've graduated. I now have that diploma, and now I get to teach. And well, I've always taught, but I get to teach from a more informed position. And Well Connected has like blown up, and it's been so fun to know that I can be successful in business. But you talked about that earlier with your business, how this thing that you loved and the creative aspect of it all then becomes a chore. It becomes something you have to do. And I don't want to ever be in a place where I am desperate for a patient to come in so I can pay a bill. I always want to come from a place of, this is the place that I've prepared for you because this is the thing that I've been called to do. And from that place, I get to serve you. And that's how I feel you do with your content creation. And that's what I feel what Kevin does from his 2 practices and the associates that he has in place, and from the business practice of UCC near me, and really bringing the education and the heart that all of us have to the world. And it's so neat to be able to have from this lens, the practical aspect of producing the content, the creation of understanding how we can get it to the people, and then like the education piece. It's cool that we're all just like having the same intention towards helping people really have an answer for something that they didn't even know they could get fixed. Yeah.
Well, I guess I have 2 thoughts to close this. I think something that's come up a lot is obviously the team and the referrals. And, we talked about that a bit where, I needed a bit more than just upper cervical, and it was the vision and brain therapy. And then now, there was even a point that I hit a wall with that, right? And now I've had to put so much work into the physical therapy part and rebuilding posture. And now that's something that I obsess about, again, just to reiterate, it wouldn't have happened, or I couldn't have accepted it, or I couldn't have done it without step 1 being Blair. But I think, to answer your question a little deeper, I think what excites me the most is having gone through all this. I feel like it allows me to step back, and then almost it's like this Avengers team of people that I've gotten to know. And now in situations like Insider Dr. Lamb, obviously we've had that connection of how Blair could help those patients, and then vice versa. And then now from a perspective of like, I realized how much the physical therapy and posture has helped me, to where I feel like I broke through that wall. And now I can even walk into there and say like, oh, like, are you checking this? Like, pay attention to those things. Correct. And it's cool to like group all these people together. Yeah, be a catalyst to the connection. And that's where my whole like being of well connected, it's like, are you well connected to yourself? And then are you well connected to every area of your life? And you are a fantastic catalyst to telling your story and having people have resource. Kevin, fantastic at giving resource and like saying, hey, if it's not me, there's this person here and that person there. And then, oh my gosh, you can't forget about that person over there. And that's what it's all about having this beautiful community of resource so that we can grow our resilience and overcome the things that we're constantly being
overwhelmed by, and maybe not even overwhelmed is the right word, but just the onslaught of being human. Every single day we encounter things and it's like, okay, what are we going to do today? So it's been really, really incredible to be able to sit down with you guys this weekend and have these amazing conversations, reminisce about where it all started, why we're so passionate about where we're at.
I don't remember my first adjustment.
I know. I don't think you remember the exam or the adjustment,
No.
but didn't we video your first correction?
No, we didn't. I was
Too out of it to remember.
I was even too out of it before.
And I am not the girl who's going to be like, let me get the camera. Like, I'm learning, thanks to you two. It's good to record.
I honestly, like I said, it ended up working to where I was able to tell the story, but I genuinely just started recording because I couldn't remember things. And especially every doctor's appointment, finding out some piece of information.
Sometimes I'm a little skeptical about grabbing the camera.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that to interfere.
Seriously. And it has.
With the healing.
Totally.
Now, it's cool to make a video, but now you have you have something in front of this person that just wants results.
Yep, that's it.
It's like, can I use this to and so I do it, but I pick and choose. Like, if somebody's going through it,
I know.
I'm not going to put a camera right here and just like, let me make my adjustments.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
And some people are like, do it. And there's other people that are just like, this is not the time.
And that's it. And it's backfired a couple of times when he's been in the office and we've just been like having fun and recording like testimonies or whatever. All of a sudden he's like, that's a really cool case. And they give permission, but then they actually get freaked out.
The magic is lost.
It's lost. And so there is something to be said about, just the sacred time and the magic that happens without it being, viewed.
Yeah.
Also, there's no problem with them sharing their testimony after the fact.
For sure.
And then there is an awesome opportunity to catch it if we can. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a fine balance for sure. And that's why this isn't, let's start a TV show. But what my heart is in all of this, and I think yours too, is to just bring awareness that there is something out there that you probably haven't heard of that we absolutely can make a difference in. And it is foundational for every single thing in your life to explode from.
Yeah, and I guess just to touch on that real quickly, if anybody out there is struggling, I think I remember those moments of like not wanting a camera or not wanting anything in your face. And I think from my perspective, at least, how I've always viewed video, because it's a constant struggle that I battle of. I'm this pretty introspective person, and it's like, well, you make videos online and you have to put yourself out there. So the way I've tried to view things is just document it now and then tell the story later. And instead of turning on the camera and talking to it, just capture that moment. And at the same time too, I do wish I had more video at my worst, because it's nice to see the contrast.
Right. Well, when I met him and I didn't know who he was, and I didn't know like what that even really meant to like have influence on YouTube. I really, really didn't know. I probably still don't know, to be honest. I just know that like I started going back and watching his old videos, and it was very clear to me how many cranial nerve issues there were. And from like the doctor lens and the nerdy brain lens, I was like, oh yeah, Jonathan, in this video, your eye started doing this thing and I saw it happen. And he's like, oh my gosh. So like I went back years of content for him and showed him where it really started.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because it happened 4 years before his eye actually blew up for real.
That's very cool to have that.
Yeah. So you do have it there. You just didn't know.
Sure. Yeah. I just mean at my worst, like
100%.
non-functioning.
No, for sure. Like, absolutely. I get you.
Yeah. I can see the difference too. Like even when I was like, I thought I was healthy.
Yeah.
I can see the difference in all those things that you were talking about. So I guess to close, I'll let Kevin go and then you can go. The one unifying thing here is not just that it's upper cervical, but I think it's Blair specifically. And in my case, like we've talked about, I have tried NUCA and it's a solid thing. I think in my case, I needed more than C1 and just even, I think, C2 is connected to the occipital area, right?
Yeah, the craniocervical junction is the occiput C1, C2, yep.
Yeah, so I think, obviously with all of the shingles and the occipital problems that I had, C1 wouldn't have cut it. So to both of you, and we'll start with Kevin, what is it about Blair that makes it what it is?
I'll answer that second, but I think the one thing is, and I was telling Dr. Hafer this, and I was kind of telling you this, there is levels in every single profession, and you are going to get drastic different results from the person that has been doing this 1 year in practice to the person that's been doing this for 15 years in practice. And it's just kind of really honing your craft and making it your life's purpose to do this work and the intention behind the adjustment. So I don't know if it really is Blair or upper cervical, because you've been to another Blair doctor. And, you know, you met Dr. Hafer. They're doing the same technique, but there are levels of people devoting their life to this work. So secondly, to kind of counteract what I was just saying, why I think Blair is the best is because of the analysis that goes from C1 down to C7. I see so many people that are suffering with like my biggest misalignment in my neck was at C3, and I tried other upper cervical doctors, and until this was touched, my life, I was doing better, but my life truly didn't change till C3, which what the Blair analysis gives you. I've seen people that are suffering with C5 misalignments that aren't necessarily going to be corrected with some types of upper cervical. And maybe 80% of, you know, you do the Atlas adjustment, a lot of people's lives are going to drastically change, but there's that 20% where if you don't get any influence or adjustments done with the lower cervical spine, you might not see the results you're looking for. That's why I do the Blair work. It happened to me. That's why I think it's the most comprehensive analysis. But I send people all over the world to different upper cervical techniques, and I'll get a message the next day, be like, that adjustment just saved my life, and it wasn't Blair.
Right.
It could be another, you know, Atlas orthogonal or knee chest, or that another guy that's been doing it for 15, 20, not to say time has anything to do with it. There's a lot of good young doctors out there, but I think it more comes from the intention behind the adjustment and the knowledge that practitioner has.
So A, hopefully find a great doctor.
Yeah.
B, upper cervical.
Find a doctor that resonates with you. That literally, like, you walk into a doctor's office, you can tell by the first conversation
7 seconds, you know,
you're having with that person. Am I going to get the results here? That I think that is, find the doctor that resonates with you. Yeah.
So upper cervical in general is a positive thing. If you've tried it and it didn't work out, maybe explore Blair. And I guess you could close with why you love Blair.
Well, I love Blair because it saved my life. And I had grown up in Davenport, Iowa, where chiropractic was founded. And I was a huge skeptic. I didn't think, oh my gosh, how could this one adjustment make a difference? And then it literally healed me in 2007. And because, like Kevin said, it's the most comprehensive, we study the articulations, we study the anatomy. Every single correction is unique to the individual on the table. And we're not trying to get a 90-degree or a balance of the head on the neck. We're literally trying to articulate the spine so that it matches itself. So that is the most specific that you can get. And BJ Palmer said chiropractic is specific or it is nothing. And so for me, specificity is everything. And if I know exactly what that person's spine looks like, thank God for the CBCT, I know exactly how to correct it. And being able to test and correct and measure, and then on contrast, do all of the examination to prove that I did that correction, it is an all-brainer for me. I want all of that all the time for every single patient.
Thanks for joining Dr. Hafer today on Well Connected. We trust something you heard brought you closer to the life you're meant to live. Because alignment isn't just about your spine. It's how you move through the world. So keep listening to your body, trusting your wisdom, and living your life in alignment. And above all, stay well connected.